Hello there, hello there, hello there, everybody. How are we all? I'm sensationally well, I thank you for asking. Hello there, some random geek. Everyone go and follow some random geek immediately. And everyone go and follow Katie Marshall, also, who is also awesome and in the chat. Facts. Thank you, Cupcake Chaos, for resubscribing as well. 54 months, Jesus Christ. Sort yourself out. Unbelievable. That's, I mean, honestly. I'm not suggesting that if you're with me for 54 months, you need to be held as in a conservatorship, because you've foregone sensible taking care of yourself. But I am saying that. I am literally saying that. What fuck am I talking about? Oh, utter shite. Now, you can help me. You can help me, dear chat, with, by the way, this image is something that I found on Facebook. Absolute fucking cancer. Facebook is like boomer catnip. It's just filled with AI rubbish. It's fantastic. And by fantastic, I mean the death of any sensible, credible democracy in the country. Anyway. Literally, I didn't think fucking Minions memes would be the way that fascism would win, but what do I know? Yes. You can help me out, chat. So, I've decided that I'm going to start a new channel, and I'm going to do football watch-alongs, which is a thing I've been sort of, I was about to say threatening to do. That's not the turn of phrase I wanted at all. No, not threatening. The thing that I've been sort of teasing for quite some time and never gotten around to doing. But I sort of feel like I can do that. And I watch a lot of sport anyway. I'm watching sport right now. Look, I'm always watching shit, right? And so I want to sort of start a separate channel for that, because I don't want to put it on this channel, because this channel is about politics and stuff, right? And don't worry, the sports stuff won't eat much, I think, into the amount of streaming I do on this channel, to be honest with you. So, you know, I'll just sort of, I'll watch lots of sport anyway, so I might as well do it in like a kind of, not necessarily even a productive way, just in a kind of slightly more interactive way, rather than just sat there on my fucking couch watching the game, you know. As fun as that is, and I enjoy it, it's, you know, want to do something a bit more with it, you know. So I'm going to do that. It'll be mostly, I think, football related, or soccer for the Americans, related stuff, but I can do other stuff. I'll probably do some stuff with the Ashes over the summer in the cricket. I'm a massive fan of basketball, so when the basketball season starts up again in the NBA, I might do some stuff with that. Yeah. Well, the help I need with the new channel is a name, because I don't know what the fuck to call it. I don't want it to be specifically about Birmingham City Football Club, because I almost certainly won't watch very much of it, of that team on there, because half the games I'll be attending, and of the other half, very few will be on the TV, and they'll be often clashing and stuff. So, like, I probably won't watch the Blues much there at all. Soccer Daddy, why is it called the Ashes? I can tell you. It's because of a what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Not sarcastic. I mean, it was sarcastic, but that's not the word I'm looking for. Satirical. Satirical. Piece. Hang on, I'll get it up. Giggity. It was a cartoon in a sports newspaper in 1882. So, at the very start of Test match cricket, in, like I say, in 1882, the Australians won a game by bowling England out for like 80 runs or something. And so, in a sporting newspaper called The Sporting Life, or sorry, the Sporting Times, they wrote a mock obituary for English cricket. Boop. And here it is. It says, in affectionate remembrance of English cricket, which died at the Oval, that's the cricket ground in South London, on the 29th of October 1882. Deeply lamented by the large circle of sorrowing friends and acquaintances, R.I.P. I don't know what MB means, but it's some Latin shit. The body will be cremated and the ashes taken to Australia. And the phrase, the ashes, became a thing. And so they took the bales, which is the little wooden bits at the top of the stumps, and they burned them and put them in a little urn. And that's the Ashes trophy. It is honestly one of the least spectacular sporting trophies ever. Literally, the trophy is about 1.5 inches tall. It's a tiny little urn. Little thing. It's very funny. So, to make it seem like less shit than that, what they now do is they give out a larger version of it made of like crystal or glass or some shit. So it looks less embarrassing, because to see them lift a trophy like that is yeah. Yeah, it's like a little doll's trophy. True. It would be like it would be like the European Cup for doll football. Yes. Anyway, so that's why it's called the Ashes. Where was I? I got distracted already. Fucking hell. So I need a name. That's the basic thing I need, right? Do we have any suggestion? Logan D's balls, definitely not happening. KF Logan balls, you really aren't helping here, chat. Kev ball. Kev's massive cock watching some sport. Spurs were very... oh, that's not a thing. Okay. You have been spectacularly unhelpful, chat. Please, for the love of God, serious suggestions. I need a name. Kev's Cup? That's just a bit gay. And don't get me wrong, I am a bit gay, but it's, you know, that's not the vibe I'm going for. My streams will not be very heterosexual, but the sex will be kept to a minimum, I feel. The People's Channel, fingering footy. Kev watches footy. Kev ball copper. Logan's runs. If that was a cricket, why would a story? If that was a cricket specific channel called Logan's Runs, would be amazing. That would, oh my god, that would be so good. Logan's Runs. Actually, if I do cricket streams, I'm going to call them Logan's Runs, because that's a fucking belter. That's a belter. Anyway, perhaps we could do a more your channel, fucks. Thank you. Speaking of your party, we'll get onto them in just a second. Kev's Corner, I guess, yeah, something like that. Either way, perhaps if one of you would be kind enough, we could put a thing in the Discord for suggestions for names. What I might do is I might stream tomorrow afternoon and do a kind of dry run on this channel watching something. And then what I'll do is I'll set up the thing over the weekend, and then for the international, because this is the next week is the international brigade, you can't, international break, so there'll be England games on and stuff, so I might start the channel with that, I think. Sounds like a diarrhea channel. Logan's Runs, that kind of works as well, but I think cricket fans would get what that is as a pun. Do you know what I mean? Boycott UEFA, brackets Kevin Logan. I mean, one of the themes I will be talking about is how UEFA are a bag of dog shit. So, you know. The Extremely Heterosexual Bloke Ball Podcast. Thank you, Viv. Everyone go and follow Mix Vivian Wolf. The sarcastic bastard. dry run. Oh, you. Okay, you know what you're going to make me do? Sincerity Cam. You forced me into this. I need your fucking help. I'm asking, can you please come up with sensible suggestions for names for the channel? Please. To be fair, most cricket fans are old enough to remember Logan's run. Well, clearly you are too, Viv, so fuck you. Why am I being rude to Viv? There's no need. Absolutely no need. Uncalled for. Define sensible. No. KF Low Game was sensible. KFL Sports. What's the name for? Your channel or a joint venture? Well, a spin-off channel. A sports-related spin-off channel. Because, like, if I don't come up with anything, I'll just call it, like, Kev TV or some dumb shit. Which would be boring. Talking balls. Well, that would work if I was Scottish. Fun balls, Logan. Scratch these balls. Okay, you're not taking me seriously. Fine. We'll move on. Anyway. Football. Well, that's the thing I did come up with, right? I genuinely thought about football as a thing, right? Because there's the podcast, the rest is football. And I thought, if I call my channel The Rest is Fuzzball, would that technically not break the copyright that they have on that? I think they'd probably, yeah. No pass around sports. I mean, the spelling is correct, I believe, but none shall passports? I don't know. You should call it Vosh's Sports Channel just to create brand confusion. That would be amazing. Alkevico. That kind of works as a pun, but again, the problem with doing a pun as a name is that you're then stuck with it. Like, you can change the name, obviously, but you don't really want to. You want a kind of through line of this is what you're called, right? Like, you have that with people who call themselves something stupid as like a joke at the start, and then they get big or whatever, and then they're just stuck with this fucking dumb name. So I don't know. I might just call it Kev TV or some shit, like just some boring fucking shit like that. Sports socialism. Well, this is the thing. There obviously will be a political angle to what I talk about because that's a part of who I am, right? And I very much see my involvement in sports broadcasting or whatever as an extension of what I am. You know, my sport and my politics are not separated. But I don't want the name to be off-putting to people. And I don't mean like I'm gonna like tone it down or whatever or any of that shit, right? I won't claim to believe things I don't believe or hide who I am from the viewer. But I don't want people to be put off and go, I don't want anything to do with that. I want them to be able to at least give me a chance and then see whether it's for them or whatever, you know what I mean? I don't like putting up barriers between you and people you haven't even met yet is, you know, KevFC. I mean, that could work, but like Kev Arsenal channel. It's only a game. The iron goal like the iron curtain. What about Kevin Logan's sports show? Just call it Kev Kev. Football lads love simple epitative? Does that mean were you meant to type repetitive, or is epitative a word? I don't know. Kev sounds like a footy lad's name. Yeah, he basically is. Yeah. Sports for the many. Yeah, again, like that's a bit wordy. I might just call it like Kev TV or something. Yeah. It's only a game is a great call. It is a good call, but that's more like a podcast name, isn't it? Oh, I'm talking shit. Anyway, right, let's look. Right, I'm going to do something like that, okay? Thank you for the sensible suggestions, not the ones about scratching my bollocks, alright? Fuck that. Dickheads. Anyway, hello. Kevin Keegan. Well, that's just the name of a different person. That would just be outright clickbait if I called myself Kevin Keegan. I could also call myself fucking Maradona as well, couldn't I? Kev TV sounds like a telly channel. Well, it sort of is, isn't it, really? How fundamentally me streaming is sort of like a slightly more interactive version of a TV show, really. It's just a live TV show. Definitely need some research for the sports you will cover and region. Well, I already know all of that. The reason I'm doing this is because I've already got a grounding in all of it. Like, I could literally just go and do it like that. Now, I'm not saying I would be the most eloquent or the most entertaining or the most knowledgeable person or the most experienced person or whatever doing that, but I know I can talk about this shit because I watch it all the fucking time. I know two things, politics and sport. I can fucking do it, right? Kevin's Villa. Oh, someone wants to get stabbed. Someone actually wants me to cut them up. Okay. I mean, look, I'm not going to, because that would be illegal and wrong. I'm just saying, you are literally asking me to do that. Oh. Sportology tube with Kevagale Thor. See that? I think people would see through the blatant misuse of somebody else's material. I think so. Anyway, we'll deal with this as we go along. Right. If you need someone who works at a football club, I could call in. As Friends Trust, that is not a bad shout, actually. As someone who is a multiple European Cup winner. No, multiple league winner. Single European Cup winner. Which is still one more than me. But, you know. For now. Although we did lose the fucking list. The bollocks. Anyway. Right, let's actually do some fucking content. Half an hour in. Jesus Christ. Right. Oh, that's the wrong one entirely. Here we go. Right. So, I wanted to just take a moment sort of up top to talk specifically about, I suppose, the state of leftism, electorally speaking anyway. The election for the leadership of the Green Party, voting for that ended today, right? So you can no longer vote on that, even if you are a Green Party member. Unless you already have, of course, in which case, yay democracy, I guess. Anyway, Um, I'm desperately hoping that Zach Polanski wins and that the briefcase ticket of Chowns and what's his fucking name? He's so forgettable. I've literally forgotten his name. Adrian Ramsey. Such a briefcase cunt. I literally forgot his name. Chowns and Ramsey lose. Zach. Well, John, you preempt me. I am also Zach or bust. If Zach Ramsey, fucking hell, Kev, you got sports ball on the brain, you stupid cunt. Fucking bread and circuses up the arse. Anyway, if Zach Polanski wins, there's a very good chance I will join the Green Party and be involved with that in some capacity. I like a lot of what he's about. I've liked his campaign. I think I've been energised by that. I hope also the deputy leadership goes to someone cool like Mothin Ali, but it doesn't necessarily have to be him. There are lots of candidates, many of whom are good, some of whom also briefcase. So, you know, we'll deal with that as and when. Also, just a brief aside for the Green Party. Having a leadership election every 2 years is mental, especially when they drag on as fucking long as this one has. Because you're just permanently in campaign mode, basically. It's very silly. You need to have a more long-term, strategic approach to this. Maybe do it every 5 years or something. I don't know, but like this has been a bit silly and grueling, frankly, for a party with 4 MPs. Like, come on now. Bread and Circus is the channel name. See, that's not a bad shout, Matt, actually, but it is sort of judgmental in a way that I don't think would be helpful. Although most people probably wouldn't even get the reference, but maybe they would. I don't know. It's a good name, but I'll leave that. But thank you, Matt. That's a good suggestion. Yeah, so the Green Party need to sort of sort their shit out in that way. But I really am Zach or bust on this. And not just in the sense of the Green Party, but in the sense of any chance of reasonable electoral possibilities going forward. Now, again, I pass out the difference between the electoral possibilities and much more broad and
Stiff of
poop, or even nebulous possibility. Or not nebulous, but like more societal, less parliamentary, less quote-unquote liberal democratic modes of leftist organisation, which are always there. In any situation, you can always do at least some of those things, even in the most trying of times. In fact, it's during the most trying of times that you should do those things. Anyway, in terms of the electoral possibilities, I find myself having to back Zach Polanski or nobody. And I don't just mean in terms of the Green Party, right? Because, of course, I can't vote for the Conservative Party, and I'm massively enjoying their downfall. I saw a recent poll that had them winning 16 seats. 16. 1-6. Not 60. You did not mishear me. 1-6. 16 seats. You could literally fit them in a minibus. And then drive that minibus terms of service. Very funny. The Reform Party are literally worse, of course. The Liberal Democrats, don't even get me started. They're like the physical embodiment of a briefcase, literally. Even if they are one of the few vaguely sort of almost kind of getting the idea when it comes to Palestine. Not massively so, but at least they're prepared to, like, you know, tell Trump to fuck himself a bit, maybe, kind of. But I'm still not fucking voting for them in a month of Sundays. Bunch of cunts. They've got the blood of 300,000 poor people on their hands. But they did get a 5p bag tax. Fuck yourselves. I can't vote for the Labour Party. They're literally doing a genocide. I don't even need to go further than that. I could go into the litany of ways in which they have destroyed my faith in them, and indeed destroyed much of what was good about the country. Or are in the process of doing so. To the degree you can do that in a year. Or just over a year now, I suppose. But I don't need to. I don't need to go into any of that. Firstly, you already know it. If you're regular viewers of the show, you already know, because I've told you over the course of the last year, and indeed more, that Keir Starmer is a big old bullshitter. A bullshitting fraud. A hack piece of shit who's going to hell. If indeed there is a hell. Which I'm not convinced there is. But you get the idea. Anyway. Yes. So, electorally speaking, that leaves me with essentially two options. The Green Party, which again is Zach Polanski or bust. Because if the Bloomberg News-backed Chown's Ramsey ticket wins, I don't know that I can even vote for them, let alone fucking join them and be involved. And the as yet unnamed thing that I'm just going to call Your Party, because that's seemingly the only moniker it currently has. I know that's not the name, but it's just called Your Party for now, because it's yourparty.co.uk or whatever. And it would appear that some of my worst concerns might be possibly about to come true. Bloomberg, what now? Oh yeah, well, during the early stages, so many months ago now it would appear, Chown's and what's his name again? I've forgotten his name. Adrian Ramsey. See what I did? I pretended to forget his name again. Adrian Ramsey. By the way, that joke that I'm doing there is based on the fact that even in amongst Green Party voters, even though he has been the co-leader for the last 2 years, a tiny percentage even of Green members know who the fuck this guy is. So I'm sort of riffing on that. Anyway, that's a really deep cut of nonsense from the Kev on this particular occasion. Yeah. Yeah, if they win, I can't join them. But yes, so the at the start of the campaign, the Ramsey and Chown's were like talking about retweeted and like bigged up a Bloomberg News article which didn't directly endorse them, but sort of basically endorsed them in a kind of wink wink nudge nudge kind of like vote for these guys, not the crazy socialist kind of way. And they retweeted that positively. They thought that was a good thing that they'd been endorsed by Bloomberg News. Which, like, I don't even need to know your policies at this point. I don't even need to listen to the rest of anything you have to say. If you think Bloomberg News bigging you up is a positive thing, that's it. I don't need to go further. It would be a waste of my time and yours for me to bother. It's over. So, yeah, we're on a 50-50 there, right? Either Polanski wins, yay, or he doesn't. And again, that leads us with Your Party. The Jeremy Corbyn / Zara Sultana clusterfudge, kind of. Which I had two main concerns with going in. Because I'm going to agree probably with this political party when it eventually has some kind of manifesto or semblance of policies and principles. I'm probably going to agree with like 95% of it, right? It's sort of in my kind of ballpark, you know? The kind of people it attracts are the kind of people who are basically me. So, you know, I'm probably going to agree with a lot of it. But I did have two concerns policy-wise. Firstly, was Russia-Ukraine. I think a lot of the nonsense spewed about Jeremy Corbyn being a lover of Russia is total bullshit by the same people who said that he was an anti-Semite. So I'm not going down that line. And I don't hold any truck with people who do, frankly. But that's not to say that there aren't elements, unfortunately, of the left who are understandably anti-American foreign policy and take that to its illogical conclusion of just saying, well, the Americans believe a thing, therefore the opposite must be true. And that has infected, unfortunately, parts of the left. And I was hoping that that wouldn't come to the forefront in this new political party. And as yet, it hasn't. So, okay. Still a long way to go. They don't have a formal policy position on that. But so far, fine. I've got no problems. The second one was culture war trash. Specifically, the most recent one has been obviously trans people. The hatred towards them has become so much more normalised, even in quote-unquote leftist circles, because of the fact that the TERFs have such good media contacts and stuff. They've made it into a zeitgeist. Even if most people don't support the things that they propose, a lot of people in the media do. And so, being a creature of Westminster, I was worried that Corbyn and some of those other people in the party might fall into that trap. And some of my worst fears have been triggered, dare I say. So, they held an event in Blackburn, which is a city in Lancashire, in northern England. And as you can see there, Jeremy Corbyn and Adnan Hussein. Adnan Hussein is the MP for Blackburn. He's one of the independent MPs. The, broadly speaking, you would say pro-Palestine, anti-genocide people, who are a very mixed bag, as is the case with this guy. And it wasn't just like, oh, they happened to be on the same stage. No, this wasn't a chance-like thing. This was, they're literally hugging. That's Jeremy Corbyn literally hugging Adnan Hussein. Now, you might think to yourself, what's so bad about that, Kev? You know, he's a pro-Palestine guy. Yeah. Adnan Hussein seems to be a very based chap when it comes to that one particular issue. And, unfortunately, not a lot else. He voted against the taxing of private schools, which is iffy. He is against abortion, which is extremely iffy. And it would appear he's a massive fucking TERF as well. Here he is, tweeting yesterday. So before Jeremy Corbyn hugged him, with quote-unquote Manchester feminists saying the left purports to have a material analysis of society, blah, blah, blah. A new left-wing party should recognise the reality of sex and gender and blah, blah, blah. All that bollocks. And Adnan Hussein says, I agree. Women's rights and safe spaces should not be encroached upon. Safe third spaces should be an alternative option. Showing, absolutely inconclusively, that just because someone is based on Palestine does not mean they're based on other things. Anna Kasparian. Oh, just clearing my throat there. But I did also say Anna Kasparian whilst clearing my throat. So I needn't have bothered doing that joke, really. I'm specifically mentioning the bonus hole. Anyway. Yeah. Adnan Hussein is a fucking transphobe. A massive transphobe. Who has been welcomed with open arms by Jeremy Corbyn. Now, does Jeremy Corbyn know his position on trans people? I don't fucking know. Does that mean that Adnan Hussein's position on trans people will be the official policy of this party? Who knows? Who fucking knows? Whatever. But the fact that TERFs have been welcomed in this way is fucking worrying. Really worrying. Because this was one of the things I genuinely feared. Because if they're going to be this political party, if they're going to be the Adnan Hussein type party, I can't vote for them. Because I might as well vote for the fucking Labour Party then. In terms of selling out my trans friends, allies, comrades, I might as well. Fuck it. What difference would it make? Also, just as an aside, the idea of third spaces, so you're going to have, instead of having to rely on each individual public building having 2 toilets, they're now going to have to add 50% more toilets everywhere for the 2 trans people who work in the building. Also, who's checking? Are you suggesting some sort of cock inspector at the toilet door? Maybe a biometric cock passport? They are talking about bringing in electronic ID and all this shit. A minge passport, maybe, I don't know. It's almost like transphobes haven't really thought about this at all. They're just reactionary pricks. So, when I say that I'm Zach Polanski or bust, I don't just mean for the Green Party. I really don't. I want to take a look at a video from the Bowler Hat Man. Oh no, I said I wouldn't. Actually, did I? I don't know. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But so I want to watch Trots versus Leninists, the clown car of the British left, how the SWP is plotting to take over your party. Such briefcaseness. But then I also spotted why the left is ditching decades of peace talks. Why is the left abandoning the 2-state solution? And I feel like we're going to have to watch both of those videos, I think. Have we made him an emote yet? I don't know if we have. Do we have an emote for him? I think we need one, frankly. Anyway, let's take a look at Trots versus Leninists, because that's a real thing.
People always say, especially most people that disagree with me or don't like me say I come across as smug. Well, today I am going to be as smug as I like, because I was right.
I haven't noticed any difference, if I'm honest. How is this any more or less smug?
Right. 3 weeks ago, I made a video saying that Galloway is on the way into crashing Corbyn's party. And yes, that is still true.
No, it isn't. You were wrong then and you're wrong now. Birmingham, yeah. Do you mean, am I from Birmingham? Yes, I am. Descent of Mano Sports. Thank you, Matt, for plugging away at a thing we stopped talking about half an hour ago. Love it. Anyway, in terms of George Galloway's party, the Workers' Party of Great Britain, they aren't trying to crash the party. What the central committee of that political party did was put forward a potential plan for contacting the new political party to see whether they could come up with a political electoral pact, so that they didn't take votes off each other in seats that they might be able to win. It was essentially the kind of tactical voting which you think is good when it suits Labour and nothing against nobody else, right? That's all. He's not trying to crash the party. He doesn't want to join that political party, as far as we're aware. He's made no comment on any of that. Or comment to that effect. It's nonsense. You were wrong then, and you're still wrong now. So feel smug all you like. It's undeserved. This guy is called Phil, right? No, Phil is a different bias, who I've been trying to contact, but unfortunately, he's a difficult person to get hold of. About setting up some kind of debate. I don't have the pulling power clearly. And I don't want to be like, I don't want to be that person who goes to like, oh, I've got a person on the inside. Like, I could go to No Justice and be like, oh, can you put me in contact with this person or that person? And I don't want to do that, because that's not just networking. That's like taking the piss a bit, frankly. So.
Galloway and his goons do intend to fully go and crash the Corbyn Sultana party. They are making sure that they are there at the grassroots level, ready to, well, take some power when the party actually...
Have you tried Kerno Damo? Well, I am Moots with Kerno on Twitter, and he's a good lad. But like, the reason I'm trying to get in contact with a different bias is because I disagree with him. Like, the problem I would have with talking with someone like Kerno Damo is, what would I talk to him about? We sort of just agree on stuff, I think. Which, like, doesn't stop me talking to other people who I also agree with, but the reason I'm reaching out to other people is because I want to talk to people who I don't agree with. Does that make sense? I want to debate Labour Party knobheads because they're Labour Party knobheads.
Starts to form. However, as I also told you at the very same time, they are not the only group that is now dashing into this new party to try and capture the grassroots, so that when, as they say, this new party finally forms, and it's like, well, okay, all these different branches, who is in charge of that branch? Oh, well, it's nice Mr. Whatever, who happened to organize the first meeting. Of course, not telling people that they're part of the SWP. Those of you who don't know what the SWP is, it's the Socialist Workers' Party. And oh boy, they're as about as trotty as they come, quite frankly. But
to be fair, he's not wrong about the swappies. They are genuinely some of the most annoying cunts in the country. Not the worst people in the country, the most annoying cunts in the country. Because you cannot have any kind of leftist gathering that they don't turn up to and try and sell their shit newspapers at. They have a newspaper called The Socialist Worker. Understandable, I suppose. And they try and sell it everywhere. They try and hijack like a protest about one thing and make it about whatever their pet thing is that week. They're very, very, very annoying bastards. I think many of them have their hearts in the right place. It's just that their hearts are not full enough of cholesterol. Actually, that sounded horrible. Good. Hey, salutes in chat. Rusty doing her best impression, I believe here, of a dolphin. I believe that is the dolphin maneuver that we are seeing there. Salutes in chat. Let's go.
Before we get into their now attempts to not only infiltrate but co-opt this new Corbyn Sultana party, please do remember, of course, to click the like, share, and subscribe button.
Oh, I forgot. I suppose, as I'm doing this, I should wear the bowler hat, shouldn't I? Which has some dust on it. There we go. Boom.
Of course, feel free to comment down below as well. I know you all will. So, like I say, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel.
Dickheads, I said salutes in chat. I've had one salute. A singular salute. It's O and the number 7. It's a saluting hand. Or do you not care about a dog you've never met? Do you not care for my silly whimsy? Thank you. I am the bowler hat now. It's true. I am.
All that way. Click the like, click the share button.
I am the twattin now. The twattin, because captain. I'm a very funny boy.
Don't forget to ring the bell, of course, as well, so you get notifications of when we go live. And of course, as well, there are links down below to the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button.
I feel like with the bowler hat, you need a monocle as well, don't you? You need one of those, you know, the monocle things, or pince-nez, perhaps.
All that good stuff down below. So thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So,
sorry, I was stroking my own dog at the time. Well, that's fair enough. I will allow that.
Socialist Workers' Party, what's going on? Well, well, to those of you who may be about to attend,
I didn't realise he would get such a boner over that. Jesus Christ, man. Put it away.
A new Your Party meeting, or the very first Your Party meeting in an area, I would recommend you do this. Ask the organisers, are they part of a political party? Ask the chair if they are part of a political party, because there is a pattern already very clearly emerging in a lot of these first meetings, that a lot of these organisers are part of the SWP. And as I said, they're not the only group as well. The Revolutionary Communist Party also out there trying to do this as well. Indeed, it came to almost a big blowout in Leeds, where the first question, the organisers from the SWP refused to actually say that they were part of the SWP when asked a direct question, were they part of the SWP? Because guess what? The SWP has told people, go organise these meetings, capture the grassroots, and then we can get in there and we can...
You look rather sinister in the hat. Well, I've said before, I do look a little bit sinister in the hat, and I look like one of the droogs from Clockwork Orange. I genuinely do. And, yeah. Thank you, Wayward Historian, tip of the cap, for gifting us up to Use a Nameless Entity, which for some reason I missed at the time. Oh, I was doing my rant and I was trying not to get distracted. How did that work? Side note, Adnan Hussein MP voted with reform to try and make it harder for women to obtain an abortion. Yeah, no, I did mention that he is anti-abortion. He's a gobshite. He's good on Gaza and not great elsewhere. Yeah. An Englishman in a hat is a dangerous thing to pull. True. If this were a pith helmet, I'd be firing on, like, innocent crowds of people in fucking Bombay. Or some other city that I've renamed for my own convenience. Talking of renaming for my own convenience, terrible segue, didn't make any fucking sense. You can give me money in the form of bits and subs and memberships and all of that jazz, which I totally forgot to do. I did a half-hour bit about how you should fucking help me with a name for my stupid sports channel, and I forgot to do the thing that pays my fucking bills, which is ask you kind people to be generous if you enjoy whatever bullshit content this is. With like I say, with bits and subs and memberships and YouTube super chats, bits, message, chat, YouTubes, the YouTubes. I'll get the hang of this one though.
Field our candidates on the back of this Your Party stuff. That is what they want to do. That is their full mandate.
Get some
guess
help.
what? They aren't being quiet about it. They are being, well, I say quiet about it, but they are being very blatant. They are handing out leaflets called "The Time Is Now" or "Seize the Moment," I believe it's called.
Well, you could show us that if that is indeed a thing that's taking place. How about bowler hat football? No, I'm not doing that bit. I'm not sitting here in a fucking bowler hat watching football. When I am literally doing that right now, but that's not the point. Thank you, MBT2K, for resubscribing. 4 months with Prime. Fucking legend. What kind of accent does Bowler Hat Man have? A kind of soft Yorkshire?
Well, I haven't got one, unfortunately, in front of me, but when I do, I really want to go through it. Trust me, I really want to go through it because he's got some interesting stuff on this. However, I do have a comment from someone on Facebook who was at one of those meetings.
It
Who
would justify your investment in the hat. Well, for a start off, I didn't really invest in the hat. It was paid for by a viewer. The third item of clothing that's been paid for by a viewer. None of which I will ever wear outside. Ever.
responded how they felt about this meeting. I can't obviously show you because I don't want to dox this person. It might get them into trouble, and I don't want them dogpiled on or anything like that. So I'm not going to show you it. But trust me, this is kind of interesting. So,
yeah, it's really interesting, and it's totally real, and I would show you, but I'm not going to show you. Cool. Cool story, bro.
this is what they had to say on this. The pamphlet I received seized the time at the recent Your Party meeting, reveals now an organisation that neither understands the United Front nor actually offers a programme for working class politics. The SWP want a new party to mirror now a very diluted version of their own politics, while giving it a license of credibility to now run their own candidates. The reader would come away with an impression that they were expecting now this new venture from Corbyn Sultana to fail and collapse. But they want that collapse, not obviously to, of course, damage them, as the way the Galloway break with them back in Respect in 2007 did. Of course, remember, prominent SWPers went with either Galloway or other SWPers who had been very big in Respect, such as John Rees and Liam Grimsley, became outliers in with the WP and ended up quitting back in 2010 to form Counter.
What? To wear this on stream? I'm not wearing that. Don't. I mean, you can give me the money to buy it, and I won't buy it. I'm not. No. Abso-fucking-lutely not. No. I mean, I'm not even sure that would be legal. Is that an actionable threat?
Fire. And yeah, counterfire
Like,
is
I will finger Ronald Reagan, but I will not shoot him because that would be illegal.
yet another other group that is trying to take over and get in and be sort of, you know, seen as like the legitimate, shall we say, option for when who gets to run local branches comes into force. The SWP want to be very much in a position now to recruit all those who get disappointed if the Sultana Corbyn party ends up collapsing or declines, rather than having members, of course, sucked away from themselves instead. The final paragraph of this pamphlet makes this aim very plain and clear,
In the pamphlet that I could show you, but I'm not going to show you.
urging readers to join now the SWP, not only, of course, to shape this new party, but above all, now to build revolutionary socialist forces. In short, the SWP have no confidence in and have no real constructive proposals for this new Corbyn Sultana party.
Hang on a minute. So your point here was that the SWP are trying to take over that party, whereas you're now saying, or this person is saying, that they have no interest in doing so because they don't think it's worthwhile. Like, my man, fucking get your ideas in a line. Get your ducks in a row here. Are they trying to take it over because they think it's a useful vehicle, blah, blah, blah? Or are they...
Oiled like a baby otter.
Or are they oiled like a baby otter? Lovely stuff. Are the SWP oiled like a baby otter? What a sentence. That timing was pretty fucking good. Yeah, are they trying to take it over because they think it's good? Or are they, you know, do they think it's a worthless piece of shit because it's selling out the working class or whatever? It can't be both of those things.
They just want to be able to take away some of those who sign up for it.
Thank you to noises happened. What noises happened? I don't fucking know. Thank you, Tess, for gifting a membership on the YouTubes. Much love to you. Thoughts on Clive Lewis for Labour leader? Well, as far as I'm aware, that position is already taken. And he won't be the next leader, regardless. So I think it's basically worthless. I think he's wasting his time. I think anyone vaguely progressive is wasting their time with the Labour Party. They're dead. They're absolutely fucking dead. Honestly, leave. Join anything else. Or just don't join any political party and do fucking just civic activism. The Labour Party are fucking worthless.
And like I say, they are going out there. They are not being, quiet about it. That is their aim. They want to get in and they want to take over and they want to be seen as the legitimate successors, because eventually, when they finally actually get around to organizing the party, there has to be a party structure. That means there have to be, at some point, local branches. How do then those local branches get the designation of you're the official, your party won? I've already said there is a case very quickly developing in Manchester in particular as to who would be the official your party branch in Manchester. Because there's already quite a few with all the different crazy left-wing socialist, revolutionary, communist party groups over there vying for who gets the say, who gets the official nod. And then, of course, as we're already seeing, by the way, SWP, they run these meetings not inviting people to these meetings. They are curating WhatsApp groups. They are told to set up the WhatsApp
Does that
group
mean the Labour Party are a legitimate fingering target? Yes, they fucking are.
for your party in that area, and then, don't let the people in who are going to rumble you, or,
Yeah, political chicanery has always happened. This used to happen in the Labour Party too. That's not like... Recently, Bowler Hat Man used a turf website to try and besmirch Zach Falansky. Miss Hire, do you have a link to that or a screenshot or something for that? Because that's very fucking disappointing if that's true. Feels like the US and UK politics are parallel. Yeah, Street Cat. The UK and British politics are sort of always just a few years apart in many respects. What happens in America is often a terrible, terrible foreshadowing of what's to come for Britain, which is rather worrying. Yeah. What's this? Oh, yeah, this was amazing. So, this image, I thought, genuinely, this image came across my timeline, right? And I thought this was, obviously, AI, silly, blah, 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 right? That's noted rap outfit kneecap with former maybe member of the IRA and former leader of the Sinn Féin political party, Jerry Adams, the actual Jerry Adams, the one who, unbeknownst to him, via Cameo, Nigel Farage wished a happy birthday to, even though he was part of a proscribed terrorist organisation, possibly. Anyway, I thought this was a joke, right? Because it look, especially like the guy at the front here, right? He looks superimposed, right? It looks like either an AI image or like this is an image taken of him that's like completely wrong and blah blah blah. Look, it doesn't make sense. Why would they be together? Whatever. Until I realised that this was tweeted out by the actual Jerry Adams Sinn Féin political account. Like the actual one. This is actually fucking Sinn Féin. This is actually Jerry Adams who tweeted that out. So yeah, and it's kneecap after party. So that did happen. What a world we live in. What a mad world we live in. I will leave it there. I will say nothing. I will get into trouble. What is this? Oh no, what is this? Oh god.
So, this, as I said, coming from the green light, and as I've said, a bit turfy, but we're not here for that. In fact, I would very, very much disagree with them on this, because I've thought about approaching the people behind this blog to get them on here, and every single time I can't bring myself to do it because I am diametrically opposed to them. I do very, very much believe in trans rights.
Well, you should have a word with your political party because they fucking don't.
Again, they're just gender critical. Yeah, it's that situation. But anyway, on to this. So, is this Zach Polanski's best acting role yet? This is undoubtedly a very good 3-minute short film. Hard-hitting, scripted, good photography, and of course, half-decent soundtrack to match. And the actor is not too bad either. But
so he's using turf rubbish. Yeah. Very sad. Very sad. Very Labour.
Might, shall we say, be good, better candidates than you for it. Very interesting time indeed, but just, something for you all to be very much aware of, because I was very much right in this, saying that this was going to happen. And how do they end up solving this? Well, the truth is they don't. Because of the way that your party has been started, it's been inaugurated, this was inevitable. And eventually this is going to lead to some absolutely fascinating yet catastrophic for Corbyn Sultana's party when it all...
Oh, they're playing here in November. That'd be dope. Yeah, I might have a cheeky little. How much are the tickets? How much are the tickets? Accept just for. Just tell me how much of the fucking tickets are, for God's sake. Yeah, accept cookies, whatever, man. Just sorry, we couldn't find any results. For what? Just standard. Oh, I don't know how much it is. Fucking whatever. Just kill me. Just fucking kill me.
All starts to go infighting because it will. It will.
50 quid a ticket.
All these groups that are infiltrating your party right now don't really want their party to succeed unless they're the ones in charge. They're the ones calling the shots. And they know full well they can capture the grassroots. If they can make it like that, then they will be very much the ones in charge. So, just something that we'll be keeping an eye on, because, oh boy, it's already starting to happen. And when it does, I will be covering it. So
right, but your only evidence so far is George Galloway not doing a thing, and then a leaflet that you claim exists, and an anonymous screed that's just off camera that you could show everybody, but you're not going to show everybody. Like, we can all do that. Like, here, I've got a thing, I'll just open it. I would show you, but I don't want to show. It was from an anonymous person, because I don't want to out them or anything. That would be doxing. And it says, Dear Kevmeister General, which is unusual to address me twice, very strange. Dear Kev. The bowler hat man is a massive knobber. He is, in fact, made of cardboard and cheese and hate. He once punched a child and stole its lollipop. Also, Kev, you're very handsome. You don't need to cry when you masturbate. How do they know I do that? Very strange.
Oh, as always, thank you very much to all those people who are, again, helping support the channel. And, of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.
I've posted the potential BHM emotes in streams. Let's have a look. Why does his hair look so crusty here? Me or him? It's difficult to say. Oh, on that point, I don't usually do this, but I'll show you behind the scenes. Because a certain person, an old friend of the channel, that I didn't know he knew I existed, whatever, followed me the other day. This is behind the scenes. This is the see, there you are, chat. You're on screen twice. I pay your attention here to a certain person who followed me 2 days ago. I don't know why. I wasn't given a shout out at any point around here, so they just found me, I think. It is DJ Mule. It's the actual one as well. The real chap himself. So that's a thing. DJ Mule follows me. DJ Mule has been raiding into Helena. Really? Oh, okay. Well, you know. He's not necessarily the worst. Who's that? Oh, well, if you don't know the backstory, just don't bother. It's really not that interesting. He was involved in some dumb drama about 2 or 3 years ago now, I think. Yeah, I haven't heard of him in donkey years either, yeah, true. What we got going on? Oh, yeah, sorry. I wanted to take a look at his amazing analysis of why the left is abandoning the impossible two-state solution in Gaza / the West Bank, Palestine, Israel, blah, blah, blah. From a member of the political party currently engaged in the genocide thereof.
It's odd when you look back in time at old articles, newspapers, books, contemporaries.
That is HITC Sevens, who is a very good football channel that you should also go and follow. If you like people talking in northern accents who know what they're talking about, he is from Hull. As you can tell, because he talks like that. He's from Hull. Hull City. Aye.
At that time, looking at something and thinking, that almost seems impossible. And yet, in 1997, we signed the Good Friday Agreement, or the Belfast Agreement, depending on what side of the border you were on. And it has proved to be one of the most successful peace agreements of all time. And yet,
it has been successful, that is certainly true, but let us not pretend it has been an unqualified success. Especially in recent times when Westminster has essentially played fast and loose with the agreement and with the people of Northern Ireland more generally. Add into that economic downturn and COVID lockdowns and so on and so forth, it's been a very, very tense time. We've seen a genuine uptick in, let's say, unwanted activities from certain otherwise dormant groups. So, you know, it certainly has been a successful peace agreement. It's lasted a long fucking time now, of course. It's pushing 30 years now. Good lord. Was it 98 or something? So yeah, that's pretty successful. But not absolutely unqualified. Although one of the funniest elements of it, of course, was the fact that so many of the armed people involved in that had to sort of find alternative employment, as it were. And they eventually, some of the former IRA people were found working for the FARC guerrillas in Colombia. You know, the drug-running, quote-unquote Marxists. Yeah. Because, you know, they had a certain set of skills and were in need of employment. So they went to a group who could use that, you know, use those that skill and experience that they'd built up. They were doing sort of terrorism mercenary work, I guess, as you do. £65 plus booking. Oh, that's quite steep, I have to say. Like, I know things are more expensive now, but like, oh god, I remember the days you could go and see a band for like fucking £9. Not a big band or anything, but you know, a reasonable sized band at that venue at the O2 Arena in Birmingham. Although it's called Arena, it isn't an arena. Oh no, the Academy. Sorry, not Arena. What am I talking about? Sometimes I find his narration annoying. He is nasal and quite like monotone at times. HSBC sevens. Fucking hell. HITC sevens. But he does really good stuff, and he does stuff that's like, again, he does actually the HITC sevens is a good example of a channel that does kind of do politics about football in a way that is accessible. So he's a seemingly relatively progressive kind of a chap, kind of left wing, although I don't know exactly how much so. And we'll talk about the economics of football and stuff like that, and the corruption of FIFA and UEFA in ways that is accessible to a fan base that want to talk about football rather than specifically politics. And so that's the kind of approach that I'll sort of try and be taking, I guess, but in obviously like a non-scripted format.
If you look at the road to the agreement, it wasn't easy. There were problems. There were, one side wouldn't make concessions, another side felt like it was being forced to the table. All these things, problems, violence that what people were telling at the time were just impossible, that signing such an agreement would never, ever happen. And yet, through diplomacy, through talking, through the belief that peace could be achieved this way, it happened. And it's strange looking.
True, but the problem you have is that trying to draw an analogy between Northern Ireland and the Middle East is fucking farcical. Because neither the IRA or the Ulster Volunteer Force or so in other words, neither of the major violent forces in the region sought the eternal absolute destruction of everyone of the opposite community. They did not seek to take over all of the land and displace all of those people. They did not think they had some sort of ethnic historical right to that land. They were not ethno-supremacists. I am fucking loath to give any benefit of the doubt to any orange bastards, but they are not people, by and large, who literally think that Catholic people should just be fucking slaughtered. There are some who believe that, because they're cunts, but by and large, they are not of that belief. So both sides, albeit violent, in part, were rational. You could negotiate with both sides. There could be give and take between both sides, because they saw themselves as, to some degree, equal. They both had equal rights, in theory, in British law, in a way that is not the case under Israeli law. Also, the American government were not backing solely one side. They were not funding, directly anyway, one side of the war. They were technically American private citizens were giving to the cause in America, not really understanding that money would go to buy like guns and stuff in Northern Ireland. Americans kind of silly money, which they thought was just sort of generally going to help Irish republicanism, was being used to, fund civil war for decades. Thanks. Anyway, the American government were not, so the world's singular superpower was not arming and abetting one side and literally refusing to even accept delegations of diplomats on the other. Because I don't know if you saw this little story, which, if anything, puts the final nail in the coffin of the United Nations. This has to be it, surely. Where are we? Hang on. Here we go. Boom. The US is blocking members of the Palestinian delegation from going to the United Nations in New York. An unprecedented move, which they didn't even do with like the Soviet Union. Even at the height of nuclear scares, they didn't block Soviet diplomats from attending the United Nations. The United Nations building, based in New York, is seen as above the fray there, and that any diplomat sent by a country is allowed in with diplomatic immunity and all of those things, because the principle is the point. If they're going to decide, pick and choose who is and isn't allowed into America to attend the fucking United Nations, then the United Nations have to move. The United Nations has to move its building to anywhere else, because America cannot be trusted as the host nation anymore. They've shown themselves to be completely and utterly incapable of taking that very serious task and role on for the world. So it has to move. Because America, what's to stop them just deciding that any other country can't fucking come in as well? We got plenty of room here. Yeah, fuck it. Austria. Yeah, Austria's fine. Whatever. Just move it somewhere where people are allowed in. God, America's a fucking clown show. Canada. Would Canada be any better, especially if the fucking Conservatives get in? I don't know. Fucking mental.
Back now that a lot of people really...
So anyway, the point is, to compare Northern Ireland to Palestine is farcical. They are very, very different situations. The dynamics do not work as a blueprint for peace. No such Belfast Accord or Tel Aviv Accord could possibly be struck.
Take that for granted. But it was a lot of hard-fought negotiations and, you know, really pushing for peace. And this is where I find something kind of odd and strange as well currently going on the left. That I'm now starting...
Let's move it to the Bell Hotel. I mean, we would, but the government won their fucking challenge, so the Bell Hotel is still going to be full of people. No room for the United Nations there, my friend.
To see a couple of people on the left start to advocate for abandoning the two-state solution for Israel and Palestine. And for those of you who don't know what the two-state solution, we'll go over it very quickly and what it is and why I think it still is the best solution.
Why's my audio dropped out? What? Ah.
But a lot of these people who are abandoning this aren't proposing any real alternatives. And that is in itself quite worrying.
Why? Why is it quite worrying? Just because I can see that plan A doesn't work doesn't mean I need to have a plan B. Because I'm not a geopolitics super duper expert. Also, what about if there is no way forward? What about it if the American government continues to give an absolute blank check to one side in that war? There can be no peace. So any plan I could come up with still wouldn't work. But that doesn't mean that the two-state solution could work, because it can't. The Israeli government have been boasting that their new settlements plan puts the final nail in the coffin of any two-state solution, as if that final nail had not already been driven in many years ago. There is no two-state solution. You're talking about a fucking fantasy. That's it. You want to talk as if you're the sensible one in the room. Your plan is dead. It's as dead as the many, many thousands of Palestinians that the Israelis have been slaughtering. Not just for the last 2 years, but for the last 80 years. It cannot work because one side is ethno-supremacist. One side wants to destroy absolutely and totally the other. Not just to politically win, not just to have dominance over, to remove. So there is no peace possible under the current paradigm. So what plan are you expecting anybody to come up with exactly? The only person, or the only people, who could come up with a plan would be the American government. And they're in a weird mutually enforcing cuckoldery with the Israeli government, where the Israeli government are completely at the behest of the American government for funding, for weaponry, for diplomatic support, etc., for forcing other countries to give funding and weaponry and diplomatic support as well. But the only reason they're doing that, at least in part, is not because of it's America's best interest to do this. It's certainly not in the American people's best interest either. But because the Israeli government gets funds from the United States, which it then filters back into the American political system through groups like AIPAC, and then buys the American political system to keep that money flowing, and it's like a circle. So the American government is controlled by the Israeli government, and the Israeli government is controlled by the American government. It's a mutually reinforcing cuck situation. So the only people who really could do anything would be essentially the American government sacking up, so to speak, and deciding that they're going to put America's interests first. Dare I say it, an America first policy. Crazy, I know. Rather than an Israel first policy. And rein Israel in and force them to actually get around the table and negotiate. And in lieu of that, what fucking plan do you have exactly? You can't just say, two-state solution. Well, what the fuck does that mean? Israel controls 60% of the Bantustan land of the West Bank. It has absolutely annihilated the Gaza Strip. What state is there? What second state exists or could exist? Because so far, we already have one state. It's called Israel. It's there. What's the second state? Because it's not Palestine, is it? It's an ever-decreasing number of small pockets of particularly hard-scrabble land in the West Bank and a sea of debris and broken corpses in the Gaza Strip. That's not a country. That's a fucking disgrace. It's a travesty. So where's your second fucking state coming from exactly? Because it sure as shit isn't the land that currently, in theory, is run by the Palestinians. Because that isn't a country. It's an international crime.
So, before we do get more into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Down below, of course, there are links to my Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the YouTube membership down below as well. So, here's a quick overview of what essentially the two-state solution is. So, it is, of course, by definition, a proposed solution to the Israeli-Palestine conflict that envisions now two independent states, Israel and, of course, Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. It originally, of course, came back from the original partition by the UN of 1947, which recommended both a separate Jewish and Arab states in the British Mandatory Palestine. This was all supported at that time, in principle, by various different international organizations and has continued in every single discussion since that time. The core idea would, of course, that Israel would, of course, remain a state for Jewish people, and, of course, Palestine would be an independent state for Palestinians. That would be, of course, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem.
Right, except that the Gaza Strip functionally doesn't exist anymore. The West Bank is 60% occupied by Israel. Not to mention the certain percentage of illegal outpost settlements as well, which are essentially Israeli, although the Israeli government officially doesn't endorse them. And they've already occupied East Jerusalem and literally moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, therefore making a contiguous state with East Jerusalem as the capital of a Palestinian state literally impossible. It cannot exist. It isn't a thing. You're living in a fantasy world. You're not sensible. You're just a very naughty boy.
Out. These were all going to be based, of course, on the 1967 borders. These may be...
Which have already been massively, massively restricted and curtailed and encroached upon by Israel every year of its existence, ever since. But, you know, go off, King.
Possibly having to have land swaps, of course, to account for different Israeli settlements. Now, of course...
No, they could just fucking move off of other people's land. They shouldn't be there in the first place. Also, we've already seen what these land swap deals would be. Israel would get good pastoral land to grow things on, and the Arabs would be given some rocks and sand and that. Not really a fair exchange.
That is, of course, a major sticking point. And, of course, speaking of major sticking points, Jerusalem itself. As both, of course, Israelis and Palestinians claim that as their capital. Now, the idea is to help solve that, is that they would both share Jerusalem. You would make it an international city. That is, again, part of the two-state solution. Big problem with that, of course. You had the US move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Thank you very much, Donald Trump, on that one. Next of...
Sorry, did Joe Biden move it back? Did I miss that? Did I miss when in the 4 years that he was president, Joe Biden moved the embassy out of Jerusalem in order to try and facilitate some sort of peace accord between the two sides? Oh no, he didn't, because he's also a fucking Zionist cunt. So shut the fuck up. Like, yeah, Trump's a wanker, but just like the Tories are bad, so are the Labour Party. Just because one side's bad doesn't mean the other side isn't also shit.
Of course, there are problems in around, refugees. The Palestinians, of course, want a right of return for refugees displaced by the displaced since 1948, which, again, I think that should...
He nearly said the word Nakba. He almost brought himself to say the word Nakba. Almost.
Absolutely be taken into account for. But then, of course, you have Israeli fears that then would undermine Jewish majorities that would then instead want...
Okay, but who cares? I'm sorry, are we doing ethnic supremacy? Are we doing ethno-state arguments? Are we accepting that that's true? Look, are we accepting that that's legitimate? Because in that case, how do you oppose the ethnic supremacist plans of Nigel Farage? Or Tommy Robinson, or the fucking BNP, or whoever? Because this is one of the reasons that far-righters like Israel. It's not that they like Jewish people, they fucking hate Jewish people. But there are a couple of sort of important points to remember. Firstly, Israel kills brown people. The far-right love that. Secondly, it's a place to send the Jewish people that live in your country to go and live over there. So they like that. And thirdly, it gives the perfect excuse for them to use for their ethno-state in their own country. Because why does Israel get an ethno-state, but we can't have one? If it's okay for them, it should be okay for us, right? We just want a safe place, just like the Jews want a safe place. We whites want a safe space too.
propose compensation or even limited returns instead. Now, of course, that is something that both sides would have to sit down and talk about and discuss on that. This is how diplomacy happens. This is how you get peace, by both sides wanting to sit down and talk about that. Security concerns in itself obviously would be a major one, as Israel, of course, would seek guarantees not only against terrorism, but hostile forces. This is why we've often said, when you look at the two big problems to peace in the Middle East, and particularly between Israel and Palestine, it's a right-wing Israeli government and, of course, Hamas. Palestine would, of course, obviously seek its own sovereign country without military occupation or restrictions. Again, that is entirely something they should have. And this has been very, very much supported by everyone internationally. Every single European Union state, including us, supports the two-state solution. The Arab League supports the two-state solution. There isn't, I don't think, very few countries that would not or do not support the two-state solution. And it is considered very much widely to be the best framework for peace. Now, of course, as we said, doesn't come without its challenges and obstacles. Of course, as we said, Israeli settlements expanding in the West Bank, kind of a big problem. The fact that you've got very much...
Oh, who... Hang on, I forgot. Who asked the question? Sorry. Was it not? Oh, was it on YouTube? Sorry, 1 second. Katie asks, Kiev, can you explain why no country put their embassy in Jerusalem until Tangerine Borbag did? Right. It contravenes a number of things, including the Vienna Protocols on such and such. Diplomatic nonsense, right? Essentially, what it did was formally recognise Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which means that East Jerusalem, which would have to be the capital of a contiguous Palestinian state, cannot happen, because you are tacitly accepting that Jerusalem is already the pre-existing capital of the state of Israel, therefore making it diplomatically impossible for you to ever recognise East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine. It killed the two-state solution in a very legal sense, even though it was very illegal, and was found to be illegal by the ICJ. Doesn't change anything, because America's got big guns, so they don't have to fucking follow laws or rules or anything. Mad.
Much divided Palestinian leadership. Again, big problem with Fatah in the Middle East and, of course, Hamas in Gaza. But there's also a lot of distrust, violence. Again, same what you saw in Northern Ireland. You've got shifting political priorities in, of course, Israel and Palestine, even internationally. So, of course, these are a lot of obstacles, but these too can be overcome. You look back pre-1997, and a lot of people were saying very, very much the same thing about the Good Friday Agreement, that it will never, ever be achieved.
Right, but both sides wanted it to succeed, whereas Israel have never wanted anything but absolute supremacy over that region. They don't care about peace. Both sides in the civil war in Northern Ireland did. They wanted an end to war. Israel doesn't. Look at the fucking... literally, you can ask the most obscene questions to the Israeli civilians, right? You can say, like, do you support the beating to death of Arab babies as long as it protects Jews or whatever? And 80% will say yeah. It's fucking mental. Absolutely insane. They're a sick society. A broken society, I would say.
And this is something I think we on the left should be very, very much advocating for, that the two-state solution is still the best solution to peace. And it worries me, as I said at the beginning, that you are seeing some people on the left talking about abandoning the two-state solution. But here's the real thing. Abandoning it for what?
But why do we have to have a plan? Like, what do you mean abandoning it for what? I mean, fucking absolute nihilism. Black-pilled hatred of everything. What do you mean? I don't have a fucking plan, because there is no plan. There is no workable solution to this issue. Whilst the American government give an absolute blank check to one side. Simple. There is no fucking plan. There's no plan A, B, C, D, E, or anything else. There is plan nothing. There is plan genocide. Because unfortunately, Cather, Trump is still alive. Although I don't think J.D. Vance would be any different if he had died. But, yeah. Mad.
It's all fine to talk about wanting peace and to bring an end to the conflict, but how? How you end conflicts, how you win peace is just as important. And you also have to ask a serious question, because a lot of these people want to sort of force Israel to the table on this. So now you have to ask a question: if Israel feels forced into a two-state solution, would it accept what it signed? Would it then follow through?
It never has before, so why would it in the future? Israel's broken every agreement it's ever made in this area.
On a two-state solution, if it felt that it was forced to the table. How would that, of course, then create a lasting peace as well? Same, of course, for the Palestinians. This is something that I think a lot of people should really consider why all of a sudden they're abandoning this, when it is, as I said earlier on, the most widely accepted
I see what you've done there, Wayward.
And best way to peace in that region.
How is it the best way? Please, for the love of God, explain that to me. How is it the best way? How is it our way? How is it in any way possible? Given what you've literally just fucking said. The Americans moving their embassy to Jerusalem makes it impossible. The fact that Israel occupies so much of Palestinian territory makes it impossible. And you haven't even touched upon the fucking genocide they're currently doing. The fact that they've destroyed Gaza and are continuing to slaughter its people every fucking day. There is no plan here.
So let me know what you think about all this as well down below. So thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.
Was there ever a time in English history where there was that level of vitriol against Irish people? Like even well, no, there was never a let's just go and kill all Irish people or displace them type deal. No. There was definitely a lot of fucking racism and definitely genocide done, but there wasn't like I don't know, there wasn't this kind of modern sensibility to it, I guess. They didn't pretend to care about it. You know? Anyway, I hadn't planned on doing this, but as it was mentioned, and as I did sort of lead off with I might be doing some sports stuff on a different channel. HITC7s. Very good channel who talk about politics and sport, or mainly sport, mainly football, mainly soccer. But I thought this would be quite an interesting one. How Saudi Arabia bought the FIFA World Cup. Should we have a look? Yeah, let's have a look.
Saudi Arabia has won the right to host the most prestigious event in world football. And when I say won, I mean bought. And when I say prestigious, what I really mean, of course, is shameless and hideously corrupt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ, what an image. What a pause. Yeah, did you see Gianni Infantino at the fucking White House was it last week or the week before? God, he's a shameless bastard. As if the World Cup hasn't been besmirched enough as it is. He went and pulled this fucking shit. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Come on now. Come on. I definitely bookmarked this shit. There we go. Look at this. Fucking look at this. Corrupt wanker.
Only the FIFA president, presidents of countries, and then those who win can touch it, because it's for winners only. And since you are a winner, of course you can as well touch it. It's pretty heavy. Yeah. It's the winner trophy. The last one who lifted that is Lionel Messi of Argentina. And here it is in the Oval Office in the White House.
Can I keep it?
For you. Well, you can keep it after the World Cup.
We're not giving it back. That's serious.
It fits well.
It goes very well on the wall right over there. We'll put it right below the end.
I just want to point out the fantastic story of Frank Skinner, the British comedian, who wiped his penis on the top of that trophy. That literally happened. He said he used to do a show called Fantasy Football, and when the World Cup was being hosted in France in 1998, they were invited to some fucking photo shoot with the trophy, that trophy. And when no one was looking, he got his cock out and he rubbed it on the top of the thing, and left, in his words, a sweaty smear. And he did that because he wanted to know that every time one of the World Cup winners kisses that trophy, it's kind of like they're kissing his cock. So what you have there is Donald Trump, via several degrees of separation and nearly 30 years of difference, holding Frank Skinner's penis. Do with that as you will.
In the least surprising news, since it turned out that this bloke was a bit of a wrong'un, Saudi Arabia has been awarded with the right to host the 2034 FIFA World Cup. The Gulf state, which has invested over $5 billion in sport over the last 2 years,
Sports washing specifically,
was the only nation to bid for hosting rights, therefore being awarded with the World Cup unopposed. In addition to the 2034 World Cup, which is the nation's greatest sporting coup yet, and the 2023 FIFA Esports World Cup, which it has already hosted, Saudi Arabia will also host the 2023 FIFA Club World Cup, the 2024 Spanish, Italian, and Turkish Super Cups.
Jesus Christ. How cocked is Europe now, really? Like, embarrassing.
And wants to host the 2035 Women's World Cup, despite Saudi Arabia.
What, they're going to all have to play in fucking hijabs or something? What do you mean?
Arabia's women's team only having been formed in 2022, women still being treated as second-class citizens in Saudi Arabia, and many women footballers having openly advocated for LGBT rights, something which is explicitly illegal in Saudi Arabia, where homosexual acts are still punishable by death. Soon enough, you won't be able to play a game of FIFA or have a kickabout with your mates without first boarding a flight to Riyadh after footballers sold everything that it.
That's my take. On what? What do you mean that's my take? My take on what? What's the issue? I don't think that Saudi Arabia should be hosting the Women's World Cup, is my take. I don't think they should be hosting fucking anything.
It owns to the kingdom. But fear not, because the world's baldest fraudster, Gianni Infantino, says that you can rest assured that this is all making football more inclusive. Of course it is. What could possibly be more inclusive than selling football to one of the least inclusive nations on earth? It all makes perfect sense. Saudi Arabia's successful bid means that In the space of 16 years and just 5 World Cup cycles, Russia, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia will each have solely hosted FIFA's showpiece event. Meanwhile, the only other hosts, namely the United States, Canada, and Mexico in 2026, and Spain, Portugal, Morocco, Uruguay, Argentina, and Paraguay in 2030.
That's such a fucking nonsense. We're going to be hosting a World Cup, but some of the games are going to be in a completely different continent. What? What was wrong with just having a country do it? And then have a different country the next time? That seemed to work really well for like nearly a century. And now we're just like, nah, fuck it. Let's just choose 6 countries at random. Bollocks to it.
We'll see 2 tournaments spread out across 4 continents and 9 different countries, at least 6 of whom are far better equipped to host a World Cup on their own than either Qatar or Saudi Arabia. It is a curious state of affairs, or at least, it is until you understand how football is governed, at which point it all makes perfect sense. Most people are well aware that something dodgy must be going on here, and they would be quite right, but they perhaps don't know exactly what that something is or how it works. So in today's video, regrettably, in yet another trip to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where critics of the regime have an unfortunate habit of disappearing inside of consulates and being hacked apart with bone saws, we are going to take a look at the internal machinations of FIFA and its member associations, the ludicrous wranglings that prevented anyone else from bidding, and, ultimately, how Saudi Arabia bought the 2034 FIFA World Cup. Before we delve into the murky details of how Saudi Arabia bought the 2034 World Cup, it is worth establishing first how World Cup hosts are decided and what that process actually looks like. Any country, or in some instances more recently, group of countries, can bid to host the World Cup. The FIFA Council, which has 37 members and is led by FIFA President Gianni Infantino, then has the ability...
Literally, I can't think of a more corrupt organisation on earth. The conclave of the Catholic Church, maybe? The White House? I don't know, like it's literally the worst people in the world destroying a beautiful sport for their own financial gain. The grubbiest bastards on the planet.
To scrutinise those bids. Once they have done so, all approved bids are put forward to the FIFA Congress, which is made up of the 211 member associations, who each have equal representation. That means that the vote of the US Virgin Islands or...
Oh, blue hair. Blue hair. Pronouns in bio. Definite pronouns in bio. Outrageous. When did the US Virgin Islands go woke?
Guam holds the same weight as the vote of India, China, or 5-time world champions Brazil. The FIFA Congress's size and equal voting rights were established, ostensibly at least, to democratise decision-making by world football's governing body and to prevent the organisation's internal leadership from being able to act like tin-pot dictators and make unilateral decisions. Hey, don't laugh, I said ostensibly that's what it was supposed to do, alright? The issue with the one-member, one-vote system is that most countries that are FIFA members, and there are actually 18 more members of FIFA than there are of the United Nations, are relatively impoverished, both in terms of those countries as a whole, but more pertinently in this instance, in terms of their football associations. Many of them, and their senior leadership, are also very corrupt. That means that they are quite easily swayed in terms of which way to vote on any number of issues if there is a financial incentive to them voting a certain way. Sepp Blatter discovered this vulnerability in FIFA's voting process back in the 1990s and exploited it ruthlessly to become president in 1998 and to remain in post until he was removed, not by losing an election, but because he was banned from taking part in FIFA activities for 8 years by the FIFA Ethics Committee in response to FIFA's 2015 corruption case. The Swedish then UEFA president, Lennart Johansson, was the favourite to win the presidency and succeed João Havelange at the 51st FIFA Congress in 1998, but Blatter, allegedly, had an ace up his sleeve. According to David Yallop, writing in his 1998 book How They Stole the Game, Blatter enlisted the help of a Middle Eastern delegate who met with African delegates at the Meridian Montparnasse Hotel in Paris on the eve of FIFA's 51st Congress and handed them envelopes each containing $50,000, supposedly as development money, in exchange for their votes. Blatter won the presidential
And when they say development money, they mean developing it into a Swiss bank account.
election, narrowly, by 111 votes to Johansson's 80, which wasn't enough to win him a necessary supermajority and would have required a second vote, but sensing the way in which things were going, Johansson withdrew, allowing Blatter to become FIFA's 8th president. In 2012, Johansson, who died in 2019, went public with the long-rumoured allegations, calling for a FIFA inquiry into vote buying. Blatter actually accepted that there had been vote buying during the election.
Oh my God! He admitted!
But don't get too excited, because whilst Blatter acknowledged that vote buying had happened, he vehemently denied any suggestion that he had been involved.
Oh yeah, no, it was totally nothing to do with him. It was people were just doing £50,000 bongs for the lols. He had nothing to do with it. It was just other people on his behalf for no nefarious reason whatsoever. Yep, no, I definitely believe that. Definitely. Yep.
Presumably, Johansson, the strong favourite to win who ended up losing by 31 votes, paid African delegates $50,000 each in order to vote against him. You know, he just decided at the last minute that he didn't want the job after all, and that he actually hated football. Or something like that, I suppose. Either that, or someone did buy votes for Blatter, but he wasn't personally aware of it, and therefore couldn't personally be held accountable for his good fortune. Both takes seem more than a little fanciful, but Blatter had stumbled upon a successful...
Yeah, he lied. He was just straightforwardly lying. Because, again, one of the most corrupt people that's ever lived.
Formula, and, as I said, he ruthlessly exploited it for the next 17 years. If there is one thing that Blatter was very good at, other than enriching himself, it was making FIFA a much more lucrative organisation. Of course, those two went hand in hand, but they're not quite the same thing. FIFA's revenue rose from a few $100 million during a World Cup year, and a tiny fraction of that at any other time before Blatter, to more than $2 billion in Blatter's final World Cup cycle, which was 2014, and almost $1.5 billion even outside of a World Cup year in 2013. More money in FIFA's coffers means more money is distributed to its members, and that money is particularly important to smaller and less affluent confederations and associations. Even without the alleged brown envelopes and money on the side then, Blatter was a popular candidate among poorer member nations. And in 2011, at FIFA's 61st Congress, even after the awarding of the 2018 and 2020...
Yeah, you really should, for the avoidance of any doubt, Marcel, yes. If you learn that you gained your position illegitimately, at the very least you should rerun the election. Or, I suppose, with Leonardson being dead, stand down. Just stand down. But then, how would he be able to steal the world football's money? See, we haven't thought that through, Marcel, me and you. We were thinking like decent human beings. Whereas he was a reptile? Reptile man?
22 World Cups to Russia and Qatar, and widespread allegations of corruption, Blatter was re-elected, this time with 90% of the vote. That stat does sound a little bit
very Mugabe, if you don't mind me saying.
Less impressive when you factor in the fact that no one stood against him, but that in of itself was telling.
Again, kind of Mugabe.
Blatter had crafted FIFA into his own personal fiefdom over decades, and the only person initially to rival his candidacy, Qatar's Mohammed bin Hammam, spent most of his brief campaign lauding Blatter and telling everyone what a great job he'd done. A bit like Vivek Ramaswamy with Donald Trump.
It's
for anyone who...
Vivek, it rhymes with cake. God, the ignorance.
Who has been following the current Republican presidential primaries, before vowing not to run, bin Hammam that is, not Ramaswamy yet, calling Blatter a very good friend and throwing his full support behind him. Blatter himself was a little bit less complimentary, stating that FIFA would be plunged into a black hole if bin Hammam won the election, and that, quote, the ballot could lead to a seismic shift with irreversible damage. Quite simply, the survival of FIFA is at stake. End quote.
Oh no, how would we have a game without the leeches that do nothing positive for the game anywhere at all? Yeah, how would that work?
Blatter won again in May 2015 at the height of FIFA's corruption case. Shortly before the election at FIFA's 65th Congress, several officials associated with FIFA had been arrested by the FBI in Zurich and were expected to be extradited to the United States to face various corruption charges. Even under those circumstances, literally 4 days before his forced resignation, Blatter still saw off the competition of his only rival.
4 days? They re-elected him 4 days before he had to resign for how corrupt he was. Jesus Christ. Oh, like I said, the most corrupt organisation on earth. It's certainly in the conversation. Look, it's a podium placer, 100%.
The Jordanian royal Prince Ali bin Hussein by 133 votes to 73. When Gianni Infantino was elected FIFA president in February 2016, he did so on a mandate of reform. His landmark reform package was overwhelmingly approved by the FIFA Congress.
And nothing changed.
As Infantino promised to make FIFA, quote, a true democracy and the World Cup bidding process fully transparent. Infantino's vision, he claimed, was to expand the FIFA Council and govern with strict rules and procedures. And in 2018, during the bidding process for the 2026 World Cup, Infantino actually delivered on some of those promises. Bid committees were mandated to produce written reports to FIFA documenting every single meeting that they had with a potential voter, as well as any other promotional activities involving their members, consultants, or politicians. It was a bureaucratic nightmare as far as both the Moroccan and North American bidding committees were concerned, but the vote itself passed largely without a hitch and with few complaints or allegations of corruption. The same cannot be said of the 2030 and 2034 World Cups. Over the last few years, as Saudi Arabia has begun investing an absolute fortune in a whole series of sports, they have been making sordid backroom deals with a whole raft of football associations, FIFA members, and even entire confederations with...
There are a lot of people who, at the end of all of this, when this corrupt sports washing shit comes to light, who are going to need to explain some things. There have been a lot of sports organisations that have taken their Saudi blood money. There have been lots of individuals, boxers for instance. Even, you know, their own FA, of course, we do with Saudi Arabia owning Newcastle. Which, by the way, interesting little aside on that. The Saudi royal family have been intrinsically tied to the ongoing transfer saga of Alexander Isak from Newcastle to Liverpool. Now, of course, that's true in the sense that the Saudi Arabian government, or its sports washing enterprises that own Newcastle, which are an extension of the Saudi Arabian government, own Newcastle United. But they have specifically facilitated this move because they also own the clubs in the Saudi Pro League. which just purchased the services of Nunez from Liverpool, the club to which Isak is moving. And so essentially what they've done is give, via their Saudi team, a huge chunk of money to Liverpool to get the services of Nunez, a player far beyond the talents of the Saudi Pro League, in order to facilitate the sale of Alexander Isak to Liverpool and therefore get at least some of their money back. So essentially, in order to beef up the Saudi Pro League by getting a significant talent, basically at the height of his powers, to go there, they have fucked over Newcastle in order to do that. They have literally facilitated that triangle of like corruption to take place, at the detriment of one of England's great football clubs. But the Newcastle fans, a lot of them are very happy to take that Saudi blood money, so you dance with the devil, yeah.
Without any oversight, let alone the kind of scrutiny Infantino promised in 2016 and, to a certain extent, delivered upon in regard to the 2026 World Cup. According to excellent reporting by Philippe Leclerc, Tim Röhn and Benjamin Stibley, writing in the German newspaper Die Welt, Saudi Arabia has signed at least 41 Memorandums of Understanding, or MOUs, with football associations across the world since 2020, including one which was struck with Costa Rica when the Saudi Arabian
Thank you, CatDev, for resubscribing. Much love!
Football Federation hosted the Central Americans just a couple of months ago. Saudi Arabia, naturally of course, hosted Costa Rica at the home of Saudi Arabian football. That's right, St. James's Park.
I've been there. Specifically in this particular part of the ground as well, because that's where the away fans sit.
In Newcastle upon Tyne. Not only is the estimate of 41 associations having signed backroom deals and MOUs with the Saudis likely to be a severe underestimate, those are just the ones that we know about, the Saudi Arabian Football Federation has also struck deals with two entire confederations, namely the Oceania Football Confederation, or OFC, and the Confederation of African Football, or CAF. Given that the Asian Football Confederation, or AFC, which is the confederation that Saudi Arabia itself belongs to, is already in the kingdom's back pocket, with Bahraini AFC president Salman bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa effectively acting as a mouthpiece for Saudi Arabia's football endeavours at this point, it basically means that Saudi Arabia has already bought off half of world football's confederations. Africa and Asia are also the continents with the most countries in the world, and therefore, the AFC and CAF, the confederation with the most FIFA members. More members equals more votes. South America's confederation, CONMEBOL, might be home to 5-time World Cup winners Brazil, 3-time winners Argentina, and 2-time winners Uruguay, and have hosted the...
A long time ago, Uruguay, though, come on. Come on. They're mostly known for Chewy Suarez at this point. Come on.
very first World Cup in 1930, and the second most tournaments overall after Europe, but it only has 10 member associations, and therefore only 10 votes, at FIFA's Congress. That is fewer than the OFC, despite the fact that the OFC is just New Zealand and a collection of tiny Pacific islands, none of whom, other than New Zealand, have ever even qualified for the World Cup. Even then, it's not as though Saudi Arabia doesn't have friends in high places. In UEFA, CONCACAF and CONMEBOL, the Saudis own a football club in Europe, and the world's biggest league, the Premier League, who they have used to help promote their World Cup bid. Their ties with the Spanish, Italian and Turkish football associations are so strong that they are literally hosting those countries' domestic Super Cups in Riyadh and Jeddah, and CONCACAF, as we have seen time.
This man looks like an unshaved sheep. I'm just putting that out there. I don't know who he is. I presume he's some sort of evil, corrupt, fucking super villain or something. But that man needs to be sheared. You know, I'm a fan of a hirsute man, clearly. But that man is a kind of a slightly rainy cloud on a fat man's body. I just needed to point that out. I just needed everyone to see that.
Time and time again, is one of football's most easily corruptible confederations due to the high density of small and low-income island nations. There are 8 new associations who signed MOUs with...
Every time I see a picture of Joe Biden, he just looks bewildered. He just looks totally out. That man has not been cognitively well since 1982.
Saudi Arabia in the space of just 2 weeks, including 2-time World Cup winners France, war-torn Syria, and Saudi Arabia's greatest geopolitical rivals and sworn enemies Iran. It shows how multipolar Saudi Arabia's football strategy is, and how varied the level of support that they have been able to harbour or acquire has been. The Saudis have now bought the support of at least 20% of FIFA's 211 Congress member associations, but they haven't stopped there. In July 2023, Saudi Arabia signed a deal with the Northern Mariana Islands. The Northern Mariana Islands are an extremely remote collection of 14 islands in the northwestern Pacific Ocean.
Do they have a team? What?
Previously under the control of the Spanish, the Germans, and the Japanese, since World War II, the Northern Mariana Islands has been an unincorporated territory and Commonwealth of the United States. Home to fewer than 50,000 people, having witnessed a dramatic population decline since 2000, the Northern Mariana Islands aren't FIFA members. The Northern Mariana Islands Football Association itself was only founded in 2005, and the Northern Mariana Islands national football team are the newest members of the AFC, having been granted membership in 2020. Since then, the Northern Mariana Islands have played a grand total of 2 games, both friendlies against neighbouring Guam, in February 2022, both of which ended in defeat. Over the last 25 years as a whole, in fact, the Northern Mariana Islands have only played 25 games, their only victory during that time coming against fellow non-FIFA members Macau in 2014.
They took on a cow. That's amazing.
Nonetheless, the Northern Mariana Islands have applied for FIFA membership. Their applications have thus far been unsuccessful, but they haven't given up yet. And, clearly, nor has Saudi Arabia, who have...
Guam could beat United. United actually won today, albeit with a dodgy penalty in the last minute. But I did feel like at least some small amount of joy for the guy who's growing his hair, because at least they've got to 1 win. Okay, he's going to cut his hair when they get to 5 wins. Yeah. All I'll say is after the international break, they've got, I think, Chelsea and Arsenal coming up or something. Like they're not getting to 5 wins. It's not happening. That motherfucker is going to look like Cousin It by the end of the season.
Have deemed it worthwhile to strike up a deal with a tiny archipelago, just in case it ever gains a vote. Here's how it works, and to be honest with you, it's not particularly complex. Saudi Arabia...
Oh, is it Man City? Oh, well, they're fucked, yeah. They're not going to win that game.
Arabia invests in stadiums and facilities, typically in poorer countries, or they say they're doing that while some corrupt official secretly pockets all the cash. Saudi Arabia doesn't care much either way, it makes no bones to them, and in return, those poorer or smaller countries, whether that be Mauritius, Liberia or Malawi, lend Saudi Arabia their votes. One former manager of a successful World Cup bid described the process as, quote, a completely legal form of bribery. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call the beautiful game, and don't you ever forget it. If you watched my documentary about how Qatar won the right to host the 2022 World Cup,
It's so mad that ever happened. A country without a fucking football league, or stadiums, or workers to build stadiums, were given the World Cup.
could be forgiven for thinking that some of this sounds awfully familiar. And you'd be quite right, but there are some key differences. Saudi Arabia's approach to investing in football has been much more extensive. Of course, we all know about the 80% ownership in Newcastle United, the 4 PIF-owned and operated Saudi Pro League clubs, and the more than $1 billion that they have spent on signings over the last 12 months, handing the likes of Ronaldo, Benzema and Neymar Jr. contracts which are without precedent in the entire history of world football.
And this is why you're a bum, Neymar. You will never be one of the Brazilian greats. You're a fucking clown, mate.
But there is lots of Saudi money in football that is a lot less clearly signposted or just otherwise goes ignored. A very good recent report authored by Stanis Ellsborg and published by Play the Game detailed 795 positions in 156 Saudi entities and more than 300 Saudi sponsorship deals throughout...
Yeah, I know he's back playing in Brazil now, but I mean, he shouldn't be. He's a waste man. All the talent in the world and no application. He wanted to be the big man, so he went to the French league. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Jesus. Also, Messi, Ronaldo. Yeah, Messi's the greatest player of all time. I have no arguments. %100%. Lionel Messi is the greatest footballer who has ever lived.
World sports, several of which open up some fairly serious conflicts of interest. Saudi Arabia's primary sponsors are Salah, a Saudi Arabian experiences and events firm which just so happens to be owned by PIF, as is 50% of the Saudi e-commerce platform Noon, who are the Toon's shirt sleeve sponsors. Saudia Airlines, meanwhile, which is owned, like PIF, by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, recently became Newcastle's official airline partner, reportedly paying £3 million a season for that privilege. Surprisingly enough, Newcastle apparently didn't even have an official airline partner before Saudia came along.
Nothing
but one would
going on
assume
there.
that those negotiations must have been pretty fierce. At least Saudia is actually an operational airline though. Atletico Madrid's shirt sponsors this season, Riyadh Air, which is also owned by PIF and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
If it helps, as Friends Rust, I don't think the Premier League would have suited him. It'd have still been fucking exceptional, of course, because he's that talented, but like, I don't think the increased pace and physicality would have been a natural fit for him. If that makes sense.
As well as being chaired by Newcastle United chairman Yasser Al-Rumayyan, is paying €40 million a year to sponsor Atletico Madrid, despite the fact that the airline doesn't exist yet. Riyadh Air is the planned second carrier of...
Fucking, it's just corrupt. It's an onion of corruption. Every time you think you've seen it, it's just another layer, another extra piece of fucking madness.
Saudi Arabia currently has 0 operational aeroplanes and 0 destinations, though it has apparently placed an order for 39 Boeing 787-9s. Saudi Arabia hopes that the airline will begin operations in 2025 and, presumably, just felt like sponsoring Spain's third biggest football club before the company is operational would be a smart business decision, something that, lots of perfectly normal companies do under perfectly normal circumstances, and there is definitely nothing to see here. Move along now. La Liga itself is also sponsored by the Kingdom via Visit Saudi, who are one of the league's 8 global partners along with Puma and San Miguel, in a deal worth €20 million a season. That is despite the fact that La Liga's president Javier Tebas, who is best known for accusing Vinicius Jr. of being manipulated after the Brazilian complained about being racially abused, and for voicing his support for Spain's far-right political party Vox.
What a surprise. Spain is, I think, one of the underrated racist countries. Like, don't get me wrong, America's well known as being racist, Australia's well known as being racist, Britain, naturally. But Spain kind of goes a little bit under the radar. Very racist. A comfortably very racist country. And it's not even region specific. It's not like even the kind of cool regions of the north of the country are like a bit more chill about it than that. If you remember Lewis Hamilton being racially abused in Barcelona, for instance. Yeah. Not ideal. Not ideal.
Previously criticised the Royal Spanish Football Federation for moving the nation's Super Copa to Riyadh. At the time, Tebas pointed out that Saudi Arabia has a dreadful human rights record, uses sport as a way of cleansing its international image, and that money shouldn't be the only thing that matters to the RFEF. In fairness to Tebas, that was all the way back in 2021. Hey, people can change an awful lot in 2 years. There is another way in which Saudi Arabia's 2034 World Cup bid differs from Qatar's successful bid to host the tournament in 2022, and that is in terms of the pretense of an open bidding process. When Qatar were chosen as hosts in 2010, along...
Honestly, nothing galled me more than this fucking smiling fat prick in the middle of the photo. When, like, he wasn't being clapped enough, so he was holding the World Cup and he was like, yeah, like, trying to get more applause. Like the world should be happy that your fucking country, that doesn't have a football league, has been given the World Cup because you're corrupt cunts. That rankled with me.
With Russia, they saw off the competition of rival bids from the United States, South Korea, Japan, and Australia. Although Saudi Arabia claims to have the support of over 100 countries, suggesting that they may have signed far more than just 41 backroom deals, and meaning that they would almost certainly have won the most votes in any World Cup bidding process, this time around, FIFA removed any doubt whatsoever. They did so, as I explained in far greater detail in a recent video about how the 2030 World Cup is already a total mess, but will summarise now by skipping the voting process entirely. Saudi Arabia had initially bid to host the 2030 World Cup along with Greece and Egypt, despite...
What? What the with Egypt and Greece? Why? What the fuck sense does any of that make? Oh. They are. It's they're just choosing at random now. None of those countries even border each other. They're in 3 different fucking continents. Ugh.
The fact that they ought not have been eligible, as per FIFA's own rules, because Qatar hosted in 2022, and confederations are only supposed to be able to host one World Cup every 12 years. Nonetheless, Saudi Arabia still bid, and having become FIFA's best friends in recent years, they and Infantino really wanted them to win. The 2030 World Cup would have been a bit too on the nose though, even for FIFA, just 8 years after Qatar hosted. It would mean a wait of at least 20 years for a South American nation, or nations, to host, and at least 28 years for a nation or nations that are wholly or even predominantly in Europe to host, despite South America and Europe still being the dominant forces in world football, and the latter still FIFA's biggest cash cow in terms of broadcast deals. FIFA's elegant solution, as it has been described, has been to spread the 2030 World...
Well, I reckon Australia and Austria. A, because it would be very confusing, especially for Americans. B, it would be difficult to say when you're drunk. And C, it's like the Oz World Cup. Because it's AUS. The Oz and Oz should host a World Cup together. 2 very racist countries united by football and racism.
World Cup out across 3 different continents, no, not countries, 3 different continents, handing 3 token group games to 3 South American nations for the World Cup centenary, and forcing Africa to function as a chess piece, hosting alongside Portugal and Spain. That means that UEFA, CAF, and CONMEBOL nations are all ineligible to host in 2034, plus CONCACAF having hosted in 2026, even if that exact same rule didn't seem to apply to Saudi Arabia when they initially bid to host in 2030. Given the fact that the OFC is just New Zealand and small island nations, it meant that the 2034 World Cup could only be hosted by an AFC nation or nations. Within 65 minutes of FIFA announcing their incredibly convoluted and stupid 2030 World Cup plans, Saudi Arabia announced their official bid to host in 2034, and big-name Saudi Pro League signings like Karim Benzema, Riyad Mahrez and Jordan Henderson took to social media with their carefully choreographed messages
how the
of
fuck
support.
is Jordan Henderson in the New England squad? What the fuck is going on? Honestly, Tuchel's a fucking knobber.
For the Saudi bid. As soon as Saudi Arabia tabled their official bid, and
I'll have more analysis like that on the international break next week.
I really do mean as soon as, the AFC's Bahraini president Salman bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa, bearing in mind that the AFC is the only confederation able to bid in 2030 due to FIFA's wranglings, threw his weight behind the Saudi bid. At the same time, FIFA brought forward the deadline for submitting a bid to host the 2034 World Cup by 3 whole years, meaning that the new deadline would end in just 27 days. The only remaining problem, perhaps, was FIFA's recently implemented requirement that any potential World Cup host have 14 suitable stadiums, half of which, so 7, must be existing stadiums, in order to prevent a repeat of Qatar, which had practically no existing stadiums, before hosting the World Cup. That presented a bit of a problem because Saudi Arabia only currently has 1 stadium, which would be deemed suitable by...
Wow. It's amazing how many rules can be bent for enough money.
FIFA standards, and would struggle to build 7 that could be considered existing stadiums before hosting the World Cup. FIFA, therefore, came up with another elegant and ingenious solution, namely to just change the rules on the eve of Saudi Arabia lodging their bid, reducing the number of required suitable existing stadiums from 7 to 4. It was incredibly fortuitous for Saudi Arabia and Gianni Infantino's close friend, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
The journalist slayer. The butcher, if you will.
A real cynic might even suggest that the whole thing stinks of a stitch-up. Not me, of course. I have every faith in FIFA's due process, but
I don't. Look at this. Hang on.
Stitch-up. Not me.
I can't trust a man who wears a suit, white trainers. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck? What are you doing? If you're going to wear trainers, at least make them like sort of the same colour as your suit. You look mental. I can't trust a man who dresses this way.
Of course, I have every faith in FIFA's due process, but a cynic, well, they could be forgiven for being left with that impression. It takes an awful lot of time and money to launch a World Cup bid. In 2010, Australia spent £26 million on their bid to host in 2022 in return for receiving just a solitary vote. That would seem odd under normal circumstances, given that Australia has never hosted the World Cup and would appear to be very suitable hosts, but of course, Qatar had already bought enough votes to make the whole thing a total waste of time. Undeterred, Australia still expressed an interest in hosting in 2034, as did Indonesia, despite FIFA implementing such a tight deadline for bids to be submitted. When they did so, however, they received a less than welcome response from both FIFA and their own confederation, the AFC. Gianni Infantino's attempts to dissuade both Australia and Indonesia from bidding weren't particularly subtle, as he publicly urged the presidents.
He said, "Oh yeah, nice football confederation you've got here. Shame if something happened to it. Yeah, that's right. Withdraw your fucking bid."
Of all AFC federations to be, quote, united for the 2034 World Cup. Infantino's dear friend and brother Sheikh Salman, and those are his words, not mine, went one step further. explicitly calling for unanimous support for Saudi Arabia's bid from all AFC members. Under ordinary circumstances, you could at least make a case for confederations calling for unity. If an AFC bid were going up against, let's just say, a UEFA or CONMEBOL bid, presenting a united front from an entire continent and confederation could make some sense in terms of providing good optics and, potentially therefore, making the AFC bid more likely to come out on top. Given that the AFC was the only confederation able to host the 2034 World Cup though, and therefore, whichever bid received the most votes from all 211 members of the FIFA Congress, an AFC nation or nations was guaranteed to host.
It's also mental that Australia is in the fucking Asian Football Confederation, but geography doesn't seem to be their strong suit. Football, that is, not specifically Australia.
The only explanation for Infantino and Sheikh Salman's attempts to dissuade Australia and Indonesia from bidding, just as with the bizarre format and host selection for the 2030 World Cup, is that they wanted to pave the way for Saudi Arabia to seamlessly be selected as hosts without any competition. This is what FIFA, attempting to gaslight football fans worldwide, calls constructive dialogue and extensive consultation. A reminder, at this stage, that Infantino was elected FIFA president on a promise of transparency and true democracy. If nothing else, Infantino has delivered on one of those promises. The 2034 World Cup bidding process is the most transparent of all time. Much more so than Russia and Qatar in 2010, FIFA could not have made it any more clear or
Transparently corrupt, yes.
obvious that they had decided who would host the World Cup before the bidding process had even begun, and they're not even denying it. Maybe it's an appropriate time to relook at how we do it. CONCACAF president and FIFA vice president Victor Montagliani told the Sport Unlocked podcast last month, speaking of a need for FIFA to make the World Cup bidding process a lot more corporate and an executive decision in a smaller body like the FIFA Council. Saudi Arabia, therefore, has spent the last couple of years buying the votes of football associations, but it hasn't even required those votes to host the World Cup due to the extraordinary lengths that FIFA has gone to in order to ensure that Saudi Arabia was unopposed in 2034. One of the claims that FIFA likes to make about itself is that even when it awards major tournaments to brutal and repressive regimes like Saudi Arabia, where criticising the House of Saud is punishable by death, there are mass executions, and children are tortured into providing false confessions, is that they are still a force for good. Because the World Cup bidding process and the prestige that hosting a World Cup affords provides them with the necessary leverage to bring about real reforms.
But it doesn't. It just gives an opportunity for corrupt bastards to sports wash. That's why you for the most part, it's mostly countries run by bastards that want to cover for that evil that bid for this, because these things are actually, financially speaking, for the host nations, whether it's a World Cup or the Olympics or whatever, enormously costly. Very expensive. And the only reason you would necessarily do that would be for national prestige, or in the case of evil dictatorships, to try and cover for your evil. You get good publicity if you're China or Russia or whoever. That's why they do it. It's an investment in PR. You're not actually reforming anything.
We heard this a lot in Qatar, most of it total nonsense of course, in relation to civil liberties and workers' rights. Even if it were true though, which it obviously wasn't, FIFA has openly removed any leverage that it claims to have by gifting Saudi Arabia the World Cup without so much as a bidding process at all. In 2013, then FIFA Secretary-General Jerome Valk made the awkward admission that, quote, less democracy is sometimes better for organising a World Cup.
There you go. Spoken like a true authoritarian, corrupt piece of shit.
If that's true, then the 2034 World Cup should be the best yet, at least as far as FIFA's concerned. That is it for today's video. There was loads more that I had planned, including issues around stadiums, logistics, climate, scheduling, Saudi Arabia's grander football plans and relationships with the FIFA Club World Cup, as it looks to rival the Champions League, and the weasel words of that weasel-faced ghoul Eddie Howe, but
True.
alas, this video would be at least...
It will be funny when he gets fired. Which will happen relatively soon, I think. Not because he's necessarily a bad manager, but the Saudis want their own man in charge, and not necessarily a Saudi, I mean like their own hand-picked person. Yeah, he's been happy to lick the boot, so to speak. So fuck him.
A couple of hours long, so I tried to stick to the title of the video for once, and we'll just have to save those for another day. Thank you all anyway very much, as ever, for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed.
Yeah, everyone go and follow HITC7s. Definitely. Apologies if this was a little bit self-indulgent, chat. I realise that, let's say, audience engagement has not been at its most thorough in the last few minutes or something. No. Basically, I think you're bored. And that's fine. I will keep the sports stuff to a different channel. For the most part. We'll still do bits and bobs, I'm sure. Anyway, I'm gonna fuck off. Who's going on YouTube? Yeah. Like I say, tomorrow I might pop on here and do a watch-along thing for one of the afternoon games, and then probably be on later for something with No Justice, maybe. We don't have plans necessarily, but we do generally tend to do a Sunday something or other. Speaking of which, go and enjoy her on YouTube. Who's going on Twitch? Oh, we went over to No Justice the other day on Twitch, so let's share the love around, shall we? We haven't been over to Hannah Reloaded in a long time. Let's reciprocate some love for Hannah Reloaded. I'm just sending you over to Tea Girls tonight. Where are we? Fuck's sake. Why are there so many channels to start with Hannah? Anyway, go and say hello to them. They usually do conspiracy type stuff. So go and check them out. I'll be back tomorrow. Join me for that. And stay awesome, because you are. Free Palestine. No pass around.